work. We already know what motivation is. The willingness and ability to achieve an objective. That is what motivation is. There are different ways which we can be motivated. So we talked about Asberg's theory of motivation, we talked about Taylor's theory of motivation, we talked about Maslow's theory of motivation. So today we want to look in deep to ways in which businesses can motivate employees. So there are two methods that can be used. We have the financial methods and non-financial method. So we're going to start with financial methods. Hello? Sit properly, please. So we're going to start with financial method. For financial method, there's remuneration. And when we talk about remuneration, we're talking about the amount paid to workers for the work done. So the amount we pay to workers for work done is called remuneration. Please touch it. Sit properly, please. Properly. Thank you. The work done being paid for. That's what remuneration is. So we have different types of remuneration. I'm going to start with the first one, which is piece rate. When we talk about piece rate is being paid to workers based on the output they produce. So if I've produced 100 markers, I will be paid according to the 100 markers. That's what piece rate is. Do we understand piece rate here? Yes. Each piece is being paid for. So workers will be paid according to what they are able to produce at workplace. We call it piece rate. Do we understand piece rate? Yes?
Can you give us an example of people do this?
Factories. Mostly factories where they produce manufacturing. For a factory that produces this is produced in the factory, you know that? So workers will be paid according to what they produce. Clear? So what is the advantage about using piece rate? It rewards employees that are productive, and employees who are lazy will lose out. So because you are being paid based on whatever you produce, it means those workers that are productive will get more pay, isn't it? And those workers that are lazy will be losing out because they won't be able to produce further. Do we understand the piece rate here?
Yes.
Now, what are the problems that we can encounter, that businesses can encounter when they use piece rates? The first one, it cannot be used when output is not measurable. Here we can measure the numbers of what we produce, right? So for services, we might not be able to use piece rate because I'm teaching. So how do you want to measure what my output is? Do you get what I'm saying or not? For quantities, we can measure, but for quality, we cannot. So piece rate might be difficult to use for services. That is the point. Please sit down properly. Sit down properly. Do you get the point I'm making or not? You don't get it?
No, we get it.
For piece rates, for those who don't get it, for piece rate, because we measure what we produce, your output, like 100, their quantity, they are quantifiable, they are quantified. We are measuring them, so you can pay it on that. But the problem about using piece rate is that you cannot use piece rate for outputs that are not measurable, like services. I'm teaching right now. How do you want to quantify my teaching? It might be difficult to use. So for services, you might use performance-related pay. We're going to get there anyway. Do you understand what I'm saying or not?
Yes, yes.
The first problem about using piece rate is that you can only use it for outputs that are measurable, that can be quantified. Quantities. Do we understand?
Yes.
The second problem, the quality of output may suffer if people work too fast. Because you really want to meet the target or you really want to produce more, the quality might not be intact. You might find short way of doing it so that you can produce further. Do you understand the point here? Because you are being paid according to your output. Some workers will quickly want to do it by ignoring certain qualities that are supposed to be met. Or instead of putting ink inside, they ignore putting ink or they put little so that they can move on to the next stage. So that means the quality of what they are going to produce will suffer because they quickly want to be done, they want to be faster and finish whatever they are doing. Please touch him again. Now please stand up. Please stand up. Yeah, you stay like that, thank you. Do you understand the second point, please?
Yes.
The third one. Workers might be workers might use dangerous practices to work too fast. For workers, they might use enhancement performance or medicine to make sure that they can do the work faster. They might use some things that are not supposed to be used so that they can do more, and which might affect their health. Do you understand? They might do performance enhancements, resources or materials so that they can perform very well, so that they can produce more, which is not good for their health. Do we understand?
Yes.
Any question about piece rate?
No.
So, any question, please?
No.
Okay. We go to time rate. For time rate, we're talking about being paid according to the hours you worked according to the hours you spent at the workplace. You are being paid according to the hours you spent at the workplace. That is time rate. Do we understand time rate?
Yeah.
Do you understand time rate, please?
Yes.
So for time rate, they said most of the workers get paid on this rate after deductions have been made on their taxes and contribution. So for time rate, it could be even at getting your salary. But before you're being paid, there's always going to be your gross salary, where you take away the deductions, the taxes, insurance contribution, pension contribution, and the rest. As soon as all these things are taken away, then you get your net payment. So get the point here. For time rate, you might be paid your net salary. But before you get your net salary, it would have meant that deductions have been made on contribution, pensions, and taxes. I think it's clear. And most of the time when they use time rates, people can be entitled to overtime. Overtime means you're spending more than the hours you're supposed to spend at the workplace. So if you're supposed to spend 12 hours at workplace, you spend 13, 14, 15, you'll be paid the extra 3 hours. You'll be paid for the extra 3 hours. So the money you've been paid for that extra hour spent is called overtime. Do we understand the point here? There's time rate, which means you are being paid according to the hours you spend at work. And there's overtime, which means you are being paid for the extra hours spent at work. Clear?
Is it possible you get paid more in overtime?
Well, if you are doing more overtime, it's possible.
For example, you get paid $10 an hour, but in overtime they'll pay you like 15.
It's possible to, most of the time, overtime payments, it's always above the normal wage or the normal hourly wage. So to encourage, to encourage productivity. Is it clear?
Yes.
So go to performance-related pay. For PLP, we use PLP where we cannot measure the performance or we cannot use piece rate, like services. For services, we cannot use piece rate because you cannot measure the quantity I produce. Yes or no? So performance-related pay is being used on that aspect. So what do? They ensure that you're being paid based on the results you give. Do you understand performance-related pay here?
Yes.
Do you understand this, please?
Yes.
So this is the payments made to workers whose output cannot be measured. They will be paid based on the results they achieved. But for performance-related pay to really be productive, businesses must use appraisal method. When we talk about appraisal simply means you measure individuals based on what they are able to do. Their performance, their attitude, their punctuality, their effort, and the rest. That is what appraisal is about. So, using appraisal, what are those things that we have to discuss, or what are those things that businesses or employers must do so that this method will be fruitful? Number one, they discuss the progress at work. So individuals will be called upon to discuss about their progress. Or what have you done, what have you achieved over this short period of time? For teachers, you might say, are you able to cover the syllabus? What have you been able to cover? Do you understand? This is what appraisal is about. Are you getting it or not?
Yeah.
The second point, assess whether targets has been met. So appraisal will be used to measure if you have reached your target or not. So you're not going to get the performance, you're not going to get the pay if you are unable to meet your target. Do you get the second point here? The third one, set target for the next year. So as soon as the target for this year is met, you have to start discussing with your employees about the target for the next year. So to know if they will be able to be there or not. That is appraisal method. Do we get appraisal method? Please sit down properly. Do we get appraisal method, please? So what is the problem about using appraisal method or using the performance-related pay? The number one, appraisal may be inconsistent. Appraisal may be inconsistent, which makes it unfair. So workers, sometimes they are off. Sometimes people work at their best, and other times they don't work at their best. Because they are human. We are human, right? So maybe at the time of appraisal, the individual does not work to his best or her best, then he or she might be losing out. Please put your head up. Do you get the point I'm making or not?
Yes.
The first problem about appraisal is that sometimes it is not consistent. Because individuals have different times, they have their low time, they have their high time. So if you are appraising them during their low time, it means they are disadvantaged at that time. Do you get the point I'm making?
Yes.
The second one, some workers will blame other factors if target is not met. So because there's a target that you have to meet, some workers would give excuses. They might talk about external factors that does not allow them or that do not allow them to meet up their target. But they might say, oh, we couldn't come that day because there was flood, or we couldn't come that day because there was traffic, or I was late because of this, because of that. So I'm unable to meet up my target based on the factors that are beyond my control. Do you get the excuse the employee is going to make now? The employee is going to make an excuse saying, oh, I'm unable to meet my target. I would have met my target, but for the fact that these things are beyond my control, I couldn't meet my target. So there's always a loophole. Do you understand the point there? Do you understand this?
Yes.
Hello? Sit down properly now. And this will be the last time. And the last one. Some workers may feel that the target is too demanding. Sometimes, based on the fact that you don't have the capacity or the ability to reach the target, you feel like the target is too demanding. It's too much for you. Do you get the point or not? You know, it's about the performance. Since it's about performance, it means we have to set a target. So if I don't have the ability to meet up with the target, I would not be able to get the PLP. So my excuse is, oh, this target is too demanding. It's not achievable. Please touch her to stand up and sit properly. Do you understand the point, please? So most of the time, performance-related pay has a lot of setbacks. And last one that I did not talk about here is that